All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty heavy,
Yeah.
nuclear war.
Mm.
But we're going to be looking at it through
Yeah.
a pretty interesting lens,
Okay.
the law of one,
Okay. Yeah.
which, for those who haven't heard of it, the
Okay.
channeled text
Right.
claims to be from
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
extraterrestrial source.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a pretty wild ride.
I can see why you picked this one.
Yeah.
It's the law of one has some interesting things to say about a lot of things.
Yeah.
Nuclear war is no exception.
Yeah, it really isn't.
It really doesn't shy away from the big questions.
No.
And it offers some pretty interesting insights into the potential consequences
Yeah.
of nuclear war.
Yeah, and more importantly, the choices that
Yeah.
humanity faces.
Absolutely.
So before we get into like all the details,
Yeah.
can we maybe do like a quick level set for
Okay.
people who haven't heard of the law of one?
Absolutely.
Like, what is it?
So imagine back in the 1980s.
Okay.
There's a group of researchers,
Okay.
and they're working with this woman named Carla Ruckert,
Okay.
who claimed to be able to channel
Yeah.
a collective consciousness calling itself Ra.
Hmm.
And over several years,
Huh.
they recorded these conversations, and that's how we got the law of one material.
So it's basically like an intergalactic Q&A.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But instead of asking about the meaning of life,
Right.
they're asking about nuclear war.
Well, not just nuclear war.
Okay.
The law of one covers a vast range of topics.
Okay.
But what we're focusing on today is what it has to say about this particular threat.
Okay, so what does it say?
Well, instead of predicting doom and gloom,
Okay.
it frames nuclear war as a crossroads,
Okay.
a powerful turning point for humanity.
Okay.
It suggests that this event, this nuclear war,
Uh-huh.
could either propel us towards greater love and understanding,
Okay.
or conversely plunge us deeper into fear and separation.
So it's not so much about whether nuclear war will happen,
Right.
but about the choices we make in
Exactly.
response to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
The law of one really emphasizes the importance of free will,
Mhm.
stating that even when faced with such immense destruction,
Right.
we still have the power to choose our path.
That makes me think about another concept that's key in the law of one.
Yeah,
This idea of service to others versus service to self.
that's a great connection.
Yeah.
The law of one suggests that choosing the path of service to others
Yeah.
leads to a more harmonious and fulfilling existence,
Okay.
while service to self, which is often rooted in fear and self-preservation, can lead to suffering and disharmony.
So in the context of nuclear war,
Yeah.
choosing to inflict that much suffering on others
Yeah.
would be like the ultimate act of service to self.
That's one way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that our choices have consequences
Yeah.
that extend far beyond ourselves.
So even though the law of one talks about this potentially cataclysmic event,
Yeah.
it's actually a message of empowerment,
Yeah.
reminding us that we have the agency to choose a different path.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about understanding that even in the face of something as terrifying as nuclear war,
Right.
we still retain the ability to choose love over fear.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty powerful message, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what else does the law of one say
Mm.
about nuclear war specifically?
Well, it suggests that nuclear war isn't just about physical destruction,
Yeah.
but also about a shift in consciousness.
Okay.
It claims that such an event
Uh-huh.
would create a powerful catalyst
Okay.
for either positive or negative spiritual evolution.
Okay. I need you to break that down for me a little bit.
Sure.
What does it mean
Yeah.
for nuclear war to be a catalyst for spiritual evolution?
Okay, so think of it this way.
Okay.
A catalyst speeds up a reaction.
Right.
Right. In this case, the reaction is the evolution of human consciousness.
Okay.
The law of one suggests that the intense suffering and upheaval caused by a nuclear war would force individuals and societies to
Right.
confront their deepest fears and beliefs,
Okay.
leading to a profound transformation on a spiritual level.
So like a cosmic wake-up call.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
The law of one emphasizes that even though this wake-up call might be incredibly painful,
Right.
it could ultimately lead to a greater understanding of ourselves and our
Yeah.
place in the universe.
So the law of one kind of presents nuclear war as both a
Mhm.
potential catastrophe and a potential catalyst for growth.
Right.
And ultimately, it really emphasizes that the choice is ours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this concept of choice isn't limited to nuclear war.
Right.
It applies to everything we do.
Right.
Every decision, every action is a vote. for either service to self or service to others,
Right.
contributing to the overall energy of the planet.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful takeaway.
It is.
Before we get too deep into that, though,
Okay.
let's move on to the next part of our dive.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in seeing what else we can learn about nuclear war
Yeah.
from other sources
Yeah.
and how those insights might connect back to the law of one's perspective.
Absolutely.
Well, let's do it.
Let's go. It's striking as we delve into these other sources,
Yeah.
how many of them touch on the idea of trauma,
Mm.
both individual and collective.
Yeah.
It's as though the shadow of nuclear war,
Right.
even if it never actually happens,
Uh-huh.
has already left its mark on humanity's psyche.
It's like this looming threat has seeped into our collective consciousness,
Yeah.
shaping our anxieties,
Yeah.
even like our cultural narratives.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned other forms of trauma too, right?
Exactly. One article I found really fascinating.
Okay.
It delved into the concept of intergenerational trauma,
Mm.
which basically means that the psychological effects of a traumatic event can be passed down through generations,
Wow.
impacting people who didn't even directly experience the original trauma.
So even if we manage to avoid a nuclear war,
Yeah,
the fear and anxiety associated with it
right.
could still have a lasting impact
Absolutely.
on future generations.
It's heavy stuff.
It really is.
Yeah, the article gives some powerful examples.
Okay.
Like the experiences of Holocaust survivors
Right.
and Cambodian refugees,
Okay.
even decades later.
Yeah.
Their descendants are grappling with the emotional and psychological consequences of
Yeah.
events they never personally witnessed.
It's heartbreaking.
It is.
But it also makes me think about the law of one
Yeah,
and its emphasis on the interconnectedness of all beings.
right.
Like if we're all connected on some level,
Yeah,
then it makes sense that trauma experienced by one group
right.
would ripple outward, affecting others as well.
That's a really insightful connection.
Yeah.
And it ties into another concept from the law of one, karma. Now, before you roll your eyes, remember, we're not talking about some cosmic punishment system.
Right.
And the law of one karma is more about cause and effect. The idea that every action creates a reaction
Right.
that extends beyond our immediate understanding.
So applying that to nuclear war,
Yeah,
even the threat of it,
right.
the fear and anxiety surrounding it, could be seen as creating a kind of karmic ripple effect,
Right.
influencing the collective consciousness in a negative way.
That's an interesting way to think about it. And it highlights the importance of making conscious choices
Okay.
that align with love and compassion,
Okay.
even in the face of fear and uncertainty.
Speaking of uncertainty,
Yeah,
one of the sources talked about the impact of nuclear weapons
right.
on strategic defense
Mm-hmm.
and how the very existence of these weapons
Yeah.
has created this constant sense of future uncertainty.
Yes, that article really resonated with me.
Yeah.
It argued that the potential for nuclear annihilation has fundamentally changed the way we approach international relations, technological development,
Okay.
and even our own sense of security.
Right.
It's like we're living under this perpetual sword of Damocles,
Right.
never quite knowing when or if it might fall.
And this ties back to the law of one's idea
Right.
of nuclear war as a catalyst.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if we never actually use these weapons,
Yeah.
the mere possibility of their use
Right.
has already had a profound impact on our world.
Exactly. It's forced us to confront our own mortality,
Mm-hmm.
to grapple with the fragility of our existence,
Yeah.
and to consider the kind of future we want to create.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Making informed choices about the future
Right.
requires access to accurate information.
Absolutely.
And that's something that's become increasingly challenging
Yeah.
in our current media landscape.
You're absolutely right. One of the sources actually used the term infodemic
Okay.
to describe the rapid spread of misinformation, especially during times of crisis.
Yeah.
And let's be honest,
Right.
the potential for nuclear war is about as crisis-inducing as it gets.
It's scary to think about how easily people can be manipulated
Yeah.
by propaganda and fear-mongering,
Uh-huh.
especially when it comes to something as emotionally charged
Right. Right.
as nuclear war.
And that's why critical thinking is so important.
Yeah.
We can't just passively absorb information.
Right.
We have to question it, analyze it,
Yeah.
consider its source.
Right.
And this again connects back to the law of one's emphasis
Yeah.
on seeking truth.
It's like that old saying,
Yeah.
don't believe everything you read.
Right.
But in today's world, it's more like, don't believe everything you see, hear, or read online.
Exactly. We have to be discerning consumers of information.
Right.
Especially when the stakes are so high.
Right.
Because ultimately, the choices we make,
Yeah.
both individually and collectively, will determine the course of our future.
And that brings us back to the central message of the law of one. Even in the face of potential destruction,
Right.
we have the power to choose love over fear,
Absolutely.
to choose compassion over violence,
Right.
and to choose a path that leads towards a more harmonious and fulfilling existence. Wow, it feels like we've covered so much, from ancient channeled messages to the psychological effects of trauma, the spread of misinformation, and the very real threat of nuclear war.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, it really has.
And I think what's most remarkable is
Yeah.
how all of these seemingly disparate threads
Right.
connect back to this central theme of choice.
You're right, whether we're talking about individual choices
Right.
or collective decisions.
Yeah.
That message seems pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
We have the power to shape our own destiny,
Yeah.
even in the face of these seemingly insurmountable challenges.
And that's where the law of one's message of empowerment really shines through. It reminds us that we're not simply pawns in some cosmic game,
Yeah.
but active participants in the creation of our reality.
But if we're being honest, it's easy to feel overwhelmed
Yeah.
by the scale of these issues.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what can one person really do
Right.
to shift the collective consciousness away from fear and towards love? Especially when we're talking about something as massive as nuclear war.
Well, that's a valid question.
Yeah.
And it's one that the law of one actually addresses.
Okay.
It emphasizes that every act of service to others, no matter how small, contributes to the overall positive energy of the universe.
So it's not about single-handedly saving the world.
Right.
It's about making conscious choices in our daily lives
Yeah.
that reflect love, compassion, and understanding.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that even simple acts of kindness, forgiveness, and empathy can have a ripple effect,
Okay.
influencing those around us and contributing to a more harmonious world.
It's like that butterfly effect, right?
Exactly.
One small action can create this cascade of change that we might never fully comprehend.
The law of one suggests that these seemingly insignificant acts of love and kindness can actually have a profound impact on the collective consciousness, helping to shift the balance away from fear and toward a more positive future.
This is giving me like a whole new perspective on that phrase.
Yeah.
Think globally, act locally.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a reminder that even though we might not be able to control global events, we can control our own actions and make choices that align with our highest values.
And that's incredibly empowering.
Yeah.
It means that each of us has the potential to be a catalyst for positive change, simply by choosing to live in a way that reflects love, compassion, and understanding.
That's a powerful message to end on.
It is.
It reminds us that even in the face of something as daunting as nuclear war, there's always hope. We have the power to choose a different path, both individually and collectively.
And I think that's the most important takeaway from our deep dive today.
Yeah.
The law of one, combined with these insights we've gleaned from other sources, offers a message of hope, reminding us that we are not powerless, that we have the agency to shape our own destiny, and that even small acts of love and kindness can make a difference.
So as we wrap up this episode, we'll leave you with this question.
Okay.
What choices will you make today to shift the collective consciousness away from fear and towards love?
Remember, every act of kindness, every expression of compassion, every choice that aligns with your highest values contributes to a more peaceful and loving world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
We hope it sparked some new insights for you and inspired you to embrace the power of choice in your own life. Until next time.
Keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep choosing love.
Couldn't have said it better myself.